Started. Right in the bright light. Here we go. All right, now I'll introduce Ed Bridgman. He's going to do a presentation on profitable outdoor hospitality destination and exceeding your guest experience. So let me introduce you to Ed.
Thank you. Awesome. Thank you very much. I'm going to try to respect your time today. How many, by show of hands, how many of you are here because you are wanting to update an existing destination, or you own an existing destination? Wow, I thought there would be a higher percentage than that. It's really actually kind of a small percentage. Wow. Okay, so can you hear me okay? Can you hear me back here in the back?
Yes.
Everything okay? We don't need that microphone. Good deal. So the rest of raise your hand if you're here to develop an RV destination. Even fewer. What are the rest of you here for? Excuse me? What? Honest, why are you here? Does anybody know why they're here?
We're going to all be together and learn as much as we can.
So we all want to be together. We want to learn something.
We're unique in our own separate ways.
Okay, so we want to learn something. All right, great. Well, this is me, served in the Air Force. I'm an electrical engineer. I design microprocessors for a living. Have a bunch of patents for that. President Reagan was in office at the end of the 80s, and we were losing the global battle to Japan and other places for technology, and he came up with the Malcolm Baldrige Award. I'm one of 5 original co-authors. We won the first Malcolm Baldrige Award presented by Ronald Reagan. That's how I became a consultant. So it's all about Six Sigma. Anybody know anything about Six Sigma? Raise your hand if you know something about Six Sigma. Six Sigma is all about reducing waste, reducing your cost, improving your profit margin while exceeding your customers' expectations. I've been talking to large companies, small companies for the last 36 years about how to exceed your customers' expectations while increasing your profit. Anybody interested in that? Maybe that's a good topic. Maybe that's something you all will want to wake up for. That'd be great. Okay, so seriously, we were asking why you're here. Well, you're here because you want some information. You want to learn something. That's great. You can ask your peers. You can come to conferences. That's awesome. You can ask your guests. Why are you here? How did you find out about us? What can we do better? You can ask AI. The last lady that was presenting talked a lot about AI. Remember, AI is only as smart as the information it finds on the internet. How many of us know that anybody can put stuff on the internet, right? They're not all experts, okay? There's a lot of false information on the internet. AI doesn't know if it's false or not. So you have to pay attention and review what AI is telling you. All right, everybody, so I'm going to start with what you do know, all right? When we want to grow, when we want to learn, when we want to take on new information, it's good to start with a foundation of where are we now, okay? So everybody knows that for decades, America has been suffering from a low-income housing shortage. That's bipartisan. It doesn't make any difference what your politics are. Americans are suffering from a low-income housing shortage. The average brick-and-mortar home in 2024 was $571,000. That's the average. We all know what the interest rates have been, okay? Your millennials, your Generation Z, your first-time home buyers can't get into a brick-and-mortar home. Additionally, the average American moves every 4.2 years. It's not the baby boomers that are moving, it's the millennials, the Generation Z. They're moving a lot. 6 months to a year, they're moving. If you buy a house and in less than 4 years you decide to move, you haven't paid any principal. All you've paid for the past 4 years is interest. You don't have any equity, okay? So the average home, brick and mortar home, $571,000. The average RV, $109,000. It's difficult to get a mortgage. It's difficult to get a loan on a brick and mortar home because it's stationary. If you can get a loan for a car, you can get a loan for an RV. It's much easier, okay? And you can take your equity with you. Millennials are purchasing more RVs than baby boomers. Millennials have surpassed the baby boomers and are purchasing the majority of the RVs. Generation Z is purchasing as many RVs as the baby boomers. If you take the Generation Z and the millennials and add them together, it's 2/3 of the population that is purchasing RVs. So we're going to talk about that because the next thing that we are all very much aware of, or should be, it's just not talked about yet in the media, is that America is suffering from a worker shortage. If you've tried to hire anybody in the last couple of years that represents your company the way you want to be represented at a price that you can afford, you've had difficulty. You don't have to show your hands. I know it's very difficult to hire workers in today's American market. So we all know that continuing to do the same thing over and over and expecting different results is the definition of insanity. But do you realize that's an algebraic equation? Continuing to do the same thing over and over and expecting the same results, but you're applying it to a different customer, to a different guest, that's also insane. All right? So if you're continuing to do the same thing over and over, if you hear yourself say, well, that's the way we've always done it, you're wrong. You better be analyzing that. You better be looking at that. If you hear yourself saying, well, that's the way we always did it, you're probably not going to be able to do it that way much longer. So, I'll give you an example. When I was a teenager, my father was one of 9 children. He was the oldest son. He had the opportunity to buy the family farm. The family farm had never been in anybody else's name. It was homesteaded in the Bridgman name. From my grandfather, and grandfather, and grandfather, generations have been in my family's name. My father bought it when I was like 15 years old. He was not even quite 40 yet. The farm next to us came up for sale. I encouraged my father, we need to expand. We need to modernize. We had an LA case tractor. Nobody knows what that is. We had a John Deere 820. We had old equipment. We had a 3-bottom plow. All right? It took us weeks to plow one field. Okay? He didn't buy it. He didn't want to go into debt. My father didn't understand how to use debt. Okay? The farm had never been in debt. He didn't want to do that. Okay? He was scared to evolve, scared to change. I got married a few days after I turned 18. I moved out to the farm and I worked for free and I worked hard. But by the time I was 20 years old, we lost the farm. We had never, this farm had never been in debt. This farm was paid for. We lost it. Okay? Dad and I lost it. Grandpa died a few years later, and on his deathbed, the last thing my grandfather said to my father, get the farm back, and died. Several of you who have existing RV destinations, how many of you have existing RV destinations that are older than 40 years of age? The majority of you. The median age of an RV destination in the United States is 40 years of age. 77% of all RV destinations in the United States are older than 20 years of age. Since COVID, your guest has changed. The guests that are buying RVs, the guests that you're trying to get have changed drastically in the last 5 years. Okay? That's what we're going to talk about. All right. So the average guest is younger than they used to be. They are 49 and less. They're remote workers. Okay? They're construction workers. They're traveling nurses. They're building data centers. I do customers all over the United States, and the Northeast is blowing up. I have more jobs in the Northeast in 2025 than I had in the last 3 or 4 years before that. Why is that? Okay? I'm not talking politics. I don't give a hoot who you voted for. You're not going to find out who I voted for. But the current administration, whether you like it or don't like it, they're doing some things that are affecting us. Okay? President Trump wants to be ahead of the world in AI. We've had all yesterday morning, this morning, we've been talking about AI. It's a big doggone deal. Okay? President Trump wants to be ahead of that. That means we got to have more data centers. The data centers are on 400 to 600 acres of land. They have their own water towers, multiple water towers feeding one data center. Okay? They take between 10 and 12 years to build. All right? And they're building them in the Northeast, in your backyard. That's where they're building them, because they need water and they need electricity. All right? How many of you have a data center within 30 miles of your place? Absolutely. Okay? It's once they're built, they will be manned by 200 to 300 people. Those people will probably live in brick and mortar homes. But it takes 10 to 12 years to build one of these things. And the people that are building them live in RVs. Your construction workers, your pipe fitters, your metal workers, your concrete workers, they come in, your electricians, your plumbers, you name it. They live in RVs. They come in for 3 to 6 to 9 months at a time, and the day they arrive, they don't know for sure when they're leaving. They can't move into an apartment. They can't move into a hotel. They bring their RVs. And they work 13 days on, 1 day off. 12 hours a day, and they make money. Okay? They have a per diem, and they make big money. Okay? That's why they're doing it. All right? Even if they arrive at your campground in June, if they're there for 9 months, do the math. Okay? They're there through the winter. All right? And they're working 13 days, 12-hour days. They do not want to move in September. And if there's no place for them to move to, then they're upset. Okay? I have clients every day that are building in the Northeast, but they're building for year-round occupancy. Occupancy. Let's use the word occupancy. I like that one better. They're building for year-round occupancy. Okay? That's very important to do. So they're younger, they have families. Many of you say, well, we don't have a school next to us. I don't care. Yes, ma'am.
With respect to the Northeast, it's very difficult to get approvals for year-round use because of the fact that most jurisdictions have a restriction that they don't want residency, they don't want people in the schools,
Right.
they don't want another mobile home park.
Right.
It's almost impossible to
You're right.
get year-round use.
You're right. But there are people that are getting around that and are going to the next county or whatever. I guarantee you they are finding ways around that.
I find that very difficult.
If they go to the next county, a more pleasant county, they're got to be as close to that data center as possible.
But the people in this room, pretty much everybody's already been
with your current administration. So you work with your you work within your association to change those county rules. That's why you have an association.
Joanne, how many?
We're not gonna get it in New Jersey, we're not ever gonna do year round, nor do our campground owners want to do year round, so, I mean, there are other states that are in this room that are probably year round.
Okay.
In New Jersey, we're not, but we have Illinois in the room, we have Texas in the room, we have North Carolina, South Carolina. So-
Virginia's right there, yeah.
But in New Jersey, unfortunately, we are not year round, we are restricted in when we can open.
Okay. Awesome.
These are important, it's just, you can still target monthlies, but most of these campgrounds are open 6 months.
I understand. So how many are 100% occupied during those 6 months?
We are.
Okay. 100, okay. So who you're coming after is younger. This is interesting. We all have heard that the spike is over, that the RV industry is cooling off. Everybody's heard that, right? Okay, if you look at AI, that's what it'll tell you. But in reality, there were 360,000 brand new RVs sold. Don't look at the graph of which ones were built, because they overbuilt a few years ago. Look at how many were sold. Okay, 360,000 were sold in 2025. But how many new sites were generated? How many new sites were generated in New Jersey? Not very many, right? Okay. 22,000 new sites were added, but we needed 29,000 new sites. So even though we're not selling as many as we sold a couple of years ago, the gulf between the demand and the supply is continuing to widen. All right? There's a bigger demand than there is a supply of sites because people are staying on their sites for longer periods of time. All right? So the average now stay on a site is 30 days. Used to be 14 days. But 100% occupancy should not be your goal. That's not your goal. If you want 100% occupancy, I can guarantee you 100% occupancy. Lower your price to $1 a month. You'll be 100% full. No doubt about it. That's not your goal. Your goal is to maximize the profit that you're making per acre. And that does not mean that you cram as many sites per acre. That's what it used to mean 10, 15 years ago when the average RV length was 32 feet. The majority of RVs sold today are fifth wheels. Why is that? Because you get more real estate for your money. Okay? Why do you need more real estate? Because you're living in them longer. Fifth wheels are the majority of the RVs sold. Fifth wheels can be manufactured up to 47 feet long. Custom built fifth wheels can go to 52 feet long. The average fifth wheel is 42 foot long. So you got a 42 foot long fifth wheel being pulled by a 22 foot long pickup truck. You're up to 64 feet in length. Okay? Also, these millennials didn't grow up on farms. All right? They didn't grow up pulling trailers. They're not very good backers. Okay? We used to build one-way roads. They can't maneuver in a one-way road. Okay? They need wider roads, they need wider sites, they need longer sites. Because what we're trying to do is maximize our profit, not maximize our occupancy. Okay? There's a big difference. How can we make more money with what we have? All right? We're not in business to be occupied. We're in business to make money. Correct?
Yes.
Okay. Awesome. All right. I know you can't read this. Okay? And it doesn't make any difference because most of you already have RV destinations. So you already are successful in 2025. You know that they're looking at the stars. We just got through talking about that. They got to have high-speed internet because they're not sending their kids to brick and mortar schools. Since COVID, more and more children are being homeschooled. Millennials move all the time. Okay? They move often. Generation Z moves often. Okay? They're not putting their kids in brick and mortar schools. They're homeschooling them. They've got to have high-speed internet. More and more people are working from home. Okay? Or working from their RV. They've got Zoom calls. They've got conference calls. They've got to have high-speed internet. You know this. You know this right now. All right? You're dealing with that right now. They got to have work centers. Okay, with the quiet areas. They want contactless service. So I own Homestead RV Community, the most technologically advanced RV destination in the world. All right, been open 5 years this month. All right, I can tell you 65% of our reservations are made online. We never talk to them. We never have a conversation with them. I can also tell you of that 65%, 60% of them are made between midnight and 6 a.m. That's when people make their reservations.
Where's yours located?
Okay, we're in South Alabama, between Mobile and the Bay. So they want 62% of all RV owners have a pet. They need to have a pet-friendly environment. They want something. They want some reason why they're there, something that is entertaining them and entertaining their kids, getting their kids off the internet when they're not studying. And they're starting to really like eco-friendly. But you guys know that. You're already successful. What are you going to do for the next generation, for the 2035? What are they going to want? Okay? And they're going to need bi-directional charging. Okay, so not only are you going to be charging their Tesla, but their RV is going to be generating more electricity than you need to provide, and they want to sell it back to you. So how many of you are familiar with Tiffin? Tiffin? Class A motor coaches? You know they sold 3 years ago? You know Thor owns them now? You know Thor has announced that they're coming out with a Class A motor coach that's 80,000 pounds, that does not have an engine in it. It's all electric. That's why that's why it weighs so much. It's a rolling battery. Okay? It needs a 100 amp pedestal. Okay? So your new pedestals coming out are 100 amp. You say, I don't have a 100 amp pedestal. You got 250s not too far from each other? Because they'll rent 2 sites. And they'll plug into both of your pedestals. But how many of you know that Tesla is no longer called a car company? It's not Tesla Auto anymore. It's Tesla Battery. Elon Musk isn't in the car business. Elon Musk is in the battery business. Elon Musk is developing a battery that is the size of a semi-trailer. One battery the size of a semi-trailer. Because America has a vulnerability. If they knock out our electrical grid, they can take down Orlando with a bomb in the right place. Tesla can pull up with a battery the size of a semi-truck and charge Orlando. Orlando could run off of a battery. That's what Tesla's working on. Okay? Your electricity consumption is huge. But once we improve these batteries, we're going to solve the electrical problem. So, AI-driven ghost. We have a Homestead RV community. I mentioned it already. That's what my wife and I own. We have a virtual store. There's nobody in our store. Everything is locked up. You go on the internet, you go to our app, you purchase firewood, you purchase a fishing pole, you purchase a GCI chair, you purchase whatever you want. We get a buzz on the camp worker's phone. The camp worker goes over to a locked storage room, gets that chair, and delivers it within a few minutes of paying for it. Camp worker doesn't touch money, okay? Everything is done through the credit card. Our store hours can be whenever the camp worker is awake, okay? 7 days a week, all right? We have a virtual office, a virtual store. Nobody there. We have 0 loss due to theft. Nobody comes in and steals a candy bar from us because everything's locked up until it's sold. We have 0 loss due to spoilage. We don't sell ice cream. We have 0 loss due to somebody standing there refolding t-shirts because somebody came in and unfolded 10 and bought 1. We don't have that, okay? We have 0 loss due to paper towels. We don't buy paper towels. We don't pull paper towels out of the toilet. We don't pull paper towels out of the drain. We don't provide paper towels in our bathrooms. We have electric hand dryers. Nobody uses them. They never break. That's awesome. Love it. They're not even convenient. The sink's over here, the hand dryer's over there. Fine with me. Use your pants like everybody else. Go on. All right? All right. So in 2025, you got to have high-speed internet. AI gave me a lot of this information. AI is extrapolating that in 2025, you have to have a really good internet. In 2035, you're going to have even better internet. I think AI is wrong here, okay? I develop RV destinations all over the country. Obviously, we do not use cable TV anymore. I'm not going to make you embarrass yourself. For those of you that are still offering cable TV, that's dinosaur. But my clients are saying, what about high-speed internet? What about a dedicated fiber optic line? We were the first to have a dedicated fiber optic line. I don't see 25% of my guests using our fiber optic, which is blazing fast, okay? My guests, 25% of them don't use it. Why? Because they pay $40 a month for Starlink because they just came from Tennessee when they were up in the mountains and they had to have Starlink to get connected to a satellite. They're already hooked up to that. Their computers are already hooked up to that. They don't bother switching over, even though mine's just as fast. 2035, everybody's going to have their own individual link to the satellite. You're not going to need to provide fiber optics. Okay? We're going to move beyond fiber optics by 2035. All right. Millennials are real interested about the environment. They would like to see net zero footprint. Good for them. All right. What we are going to see is people are going to live in their RVs longer, more full-time, all year round. That's where people are going to be living. Okay, so existing versus developing. We had several people here that wanted to talk about that. If older RVs, over RV destinations, you have some challenges to get by. You have some legislation challenges to get beyond. Yeah, a lot of them were not built for today's longer fifth wheels with being pulled by drivers that didn't grow up on a farm. Also, what we're finding is that they're being pulled by trucks that are undersized. Okay, so this salesperson did a disservice to this millennial and said, sure, you can pull this with your F-150. You can pull it off the lot while it's empty, okay? But once you get it filled up with all your canned goods and all your clothes and you've got some water underneath there to go boondocking, now this thing weighs more than the F-150 has braking power for. And you talk to the millennial and you say, man, you're pulling that 42-foot long fifth wheel with an undersized, even a 250 pickup? And you have any trouble with that? And he goes, no, it has no problem. My 250, it'll pull this 42-foot long fifth wheel. I can go 75 miles an hour. I'm not worried about you going 75 miles an hour. I'm worried about you stopping, okay? How are you going to stop that thing at 75 miles an hour when it outweighs you 10 to 1, okay? That's the problem, millennial. All right. Permitting is a problem. Get it. Legislation is a problem. We got to work something out, okay? We got to work with our legislation because we have a low income housing shortage. That's nationwide, all right? The government wants these data centers in their backyard. They want them in their county. They got to be built by somebody. These people work around the clock, around the year. Work with your county and try to say, okay, dude, how do you want to get these people here? Are they all going to go into hotel rooms? They're all going to go into apartments? Where's your apartments? Okay? The government's got to work with us. It's also difficult to change your branding. If you purchase an existing RV destination and it had a bad reputation, it's very difficult to change people's first impression. And sometimes it's just more costly to tear up the old infrastructure than it is to build new. So your barrier to entry, your largest barrier to entry if you're updating or building from scratch is the sewer. You got to figure out how you're going to handle your sewer. That is your biggest barrier to entry. You can either have public sewer, awesome, that'd be great. If you can find land with public sewer, it is worth exponentially more than if you have to use septic. Don't worry, 85% of what we design is on septic. We deal with that all the time, but it's just another challenge. You can do a private system, but anybody in here have a private wastewater treatment system? Oh, good for you. All right, you don't want one, okay? All right, your largest barrier to operation, we already mentioned, is you can't find a worker. You can't find a worker that will represent your company the way you want to be represented at a price that you can afford. Very difficult, very difficult. Not impossible, Hunter, okay? All right, I see you, but it's very hard, okay? All right, your most important consideration is electricity. RV owners are going to demand more and more electricity. It's not just electric cars. It's the air fryers, it's the washer and dryers, it's the electric golf carts. How many of you do not allow electric golf carts? Bunch of you. Why? Because they're taking electricity from you, all right? Well, you got to have 100 amp service available pretty quick, and you got to meter every guest, even your overnighters. You need to be metering electricity. You say, no, that's not the way we did it last year. We're not going to do it. No. Well, pay attention, because that's the reason why you're not going to be in business in the near future. And the most frustrating thing, it's the people. Those of you that own an RV destination right now, it's adult babysitting, okay? That's a great rule, it just don't apply to me. I want you to apply it to them, but don't apply it to me. Oh, man. I feel your frustration. We own RV destinations. So I talked briefly, I skimmed right past it because I didn't want to get caught. You got to be charging for electricity. You got to be set up to charge for electricity. This gentleman over here, he uses an average of 10 kilowatt hours per day. At 20 cents a kilowatt hour, that's $2 per day. This person over here, he's using 175 kilowatt hours per day. At 20 cents a kilowatt hour, that's $35. I'm not going to ask you to raise your hand because nobody would. Do you think it's ethical to charge these two people the same amount for a similar site right next to each other? when one of them's drawing $2 a day and the other one's drawing $35 a day, do you think it's ethical to charge them the same base rate and give them all the electricity they want?
Yes.
You think it's ethical? I don't think anybody thinks that's ethical. But what's cool about these pictures, what I really like about these pictures, this guy's got 3 padlocks on his, and that guy's got his door open. So, yeah, these Class A's have heated floors, okay? Electrical heated floors. You ever tried to fill the propane bottle in a Class A like that? They will not bring out a propane truck to fill that, okay? You've got to pull those slides in, pack up, and go to the propane distributor to get their propane filled. It's a pain. So, instead, they're coming out all electric. No propane in the modern day coaches, okay? The electrical demand is rising. The electrical cost is rising, okay? These data centers going on in the Northeast are going up there because of water and electricity. They're sucking down a ton of electricity, okay? That's creating more demand on electricity. You say, who cares? I'm not in the data center business. Yeah, but they're sucking down electricity from your power grid, okay? And your power grid is going to charge you more for electricity, okay? So both of these guys, when they're making a reservation, both of them are asking, do you give away electricity? Or do you charge for electricity? This person wants to know, because if you're giving away electricity, then your rates are going to be higher. They have to be, okay? So he wants to go to places where they charge for electricity, because he doesn't use very much, okay? That guy wants to know if you're giving away electricity because he knows he's an electrical hog and he is sucking down a ton of electricity. So you got 2 different RV destinations. One of them gives away electricity, one of them charges their customer for electricity, okay? This guy, in order to stay in business, okay, if he doesn't want to pay that guy to stay at his place, he has to raise his rates. This guy says, fine, the market has gone up, I'll raise my base rate. This guy has to raise his rates again. This guy raises his rates again. This guy is increasing his profit margin. This guy is just trying to cover his costs, okay? Because more and more people like that are showing up at his place. These people are showing up over here. This guy's going to make more and more profit. This guy is going to find himself going out of business because you can only raise your rate so high. Once you hit that ceiling, you can't raise it anymore. But as the electrical hogs are taking $35 a day of electricity from you, and you're charging $55 a night, by the time you pay your employee, your insurance, your marketing, your AI-generated website, you can't afford it. So how about this guy? 32-foot, this is Homestead. That's our building back there. This is one of our sites. This guy came to us. We meter electricity at every site, at every building, for every customer, even overnight guests. Automatic, everything's automatic. We don't go out and read meters, it's all done automatic. We were the first to do that, by the way. Anyway, this guy shows up. He's got one air conditioner. He's got a whole rack of solar panels on top. He was only there for 12 hours. How much electricity do you think he used? Any guesses? Anybody want to yell out a guess? He was there 12 hours. He used 274 kilowatt hours of electricity. 274 kilowatt hours in 12 hours. I don't know what the math is on that. 20 cents a...
$54.
$54. Really? Wow. You're good at math.
Everywhere's down
$54 worth of electricity in 12 hours. If you're charging him $65 a night, you're paying him to stay there. You say, dude, how could he possibly use that much? He had 800 pounds of batteries stuffed in the front of this thing. He had been boondocking at a state park underneath a tree, and he had discharged all of his batteries. He came to us specifically because we meter electricity, and he wanted to know how much it was going to take to charge his batteries. That's why he was there, okay? So if you think you don't need to charge electricity for overnight guests, you're wrong. All right, so it's very easy to do. All your software will do it. This is just an example. We do it automatically. We provide 25 kilowatt hours per day. This person was here 3 days. They only used 38 kilowatt hours. No harm, no foul. They just paid for their overnight stay. This person was here for 4 days. We give 25 kilowatt hours per day. That's 100 kilowatt hours is what we give. This person used 374 kilowatt hours, almost 4 times as much as what we give, what we allocate. So in addition to their overnight of $52, and what is it? $52.73 is what we charge this person per night. In addition to that, they had to pay for the electricity that they used above and beyond what we allocate. This is a monthly allocation. So anyway, all your software does that now. 5 years ago, when I was coming up, I said Biden was running for office. Biden said we were all going to be driving electric vehicles by 2030. I said we have to charge for electricity. I couldn't get anybody to listen to me. There's 20 different reservation software companies out there. None of them believe me. All of them said, nah, we're not going to charge for electricity. We're not,
3 more
nobody's
minutes.
worried about that. Thank you. So I found a company that said, you can pay my engineers overtime to be able to meter and monitor, and so you can charge for electricity automatically. At the time, matter of fact, they were represented here yesterday too. At the time, they were a very small company. They weren't even recognized as in the top 10. So I paid their electricians, their electrical engineers. We developed the software to be able to automatically meter and monitor and charge for electricity for every guest, including overnight guests. And now they are the second largest reservation software company in the world. Okay? And they were represented here a couple of days ago. Okay? You're welcome. All right? So I was the one that started that. All right? We were the first to be able to meter and monitor electricity. You say, well, we can't make money on it. We give away 25 kilowatt hours per day. That's how we got around that. All right? But we meter and monitor for everybody. So if you are wanting to develop, there was several of you that raised your hand, said you wanted to develop, you have to think about what type of RV destination you want to have. There are 5 different RV destination types. Let that sink in for a second. There are 5 different RV destination types, and they're all unique and different, and they attract a different clientele. So you have to think about who you want to babysit, okay? Because that's what you're going to be doing, all right? So the land determines the type. So if you haven't bought land yet, you get to determine the type and then go find the right land. If you already own the land, then you have to see what type fits your land, all right? So those are the things you look for when you're looking for land. Some of you already own your land. So the 5 different destination types. Parks. Parks are the only RV destination type in 2026 that is losing money. Hang on, 90% of them are called parks. Yeah, but that doesn't mean they are a park. Just because you have park in your name doesn't mean you are a park, okay? Parks are located along the interstate, near exits. People are traveling from their home to Disney World, okay? They can't make it from Dallas to Disney World in one stop, so they have to pull over and park next to the interstate. They could care less about a pool. They could care less about a training facility. They could care less about pickleball. They're just there to sleep, rejuvenate, and then they're headed to Disney World. Okay? Those are parks for overnight stay. That's what a park is. They're going out of business. All right? They are losing money. And I can prove it to you. All right? We all drive by these things on our way to work. Okay? You drive by this place that's 20, 30, 40, 50 years old. It's right along the interstate. And it was a park. It was there because people were on this interstate going someplace else. But now you see the same RV next to the road every day. He's been there for months and years. He's got a wooden deck, okay? He's got trees growing around it. He's got plants growing around it. It's no longer an overnight stay park. It has become a community. People are using it as a community, a long-term stay. I can tell you, nobody is taking a long-term stay community and converting it into a park. Nobody's doing it because there's no demand for parks, okay? There is a demand for communities. A campground. If you were able to purchase land right outside of Disney, people would come to you, they would stay there, but they would spend all day at Disney, okay? Would they stay in your pool? No. They don't want your pool. They don't want your pickleball court. No. They would stay at your campground and they would camp there while they're being entertained next door. If you can find land next to the next Disney, buy it. Okay? Buy all of it. Buy as much as you can and create a campground. Okay, because you won't have to invest money in amenities. That's next door. All right? All you're going to have is someplace for them to sleep. That's a campground. All right. They've been around for over 100 years. RV resorts. RV prices started going up. The average now is $109,000. People looked outside. They said, man, I spent over $100,000 on that thing. I'm only using it a couple of weeks out of the year. I got to use that thing. I got to make it pay for itself. Okay, so they started going on shorter trips, less than 100 miles away, staying for a 3-day weekend, coming back and doing that 3, 4, 5, 6 times a year. All right, but you have to have a reason for them to come to you. Okay, you can buy inexpensive land within 100 miles of Dallas-Fort Worth, and they'll come to you, but you have to have a reason. Okay, you have to have a splash pad. You have to have a couple pools. You have to have a reason why they're coming. That's why you can call yourself a resort. All right? And then in the last 10 years, people started living in these RVs full time, year round. They started living in these RVs long term, months at a time. People coming down from the north to the south to stay for 6 months at a time. Okay? So now we need communities. So communities are relatively new. That's where the largest demand. If you want to build something and you want to guarantee that you're going to make a lot of money, build a community. Fewer assets, fewer amenities, fewer people you're going to have to employ, long-term tenants. They come in and just pay you a check every month. Okay? Communities is the fastest growing demand, the highest demand right now is communities. A retreat, that is a hybrid of the two. So we built a park, but it's being used as a community. That's the next fastest. That's what's going on now. So your location determines your RV destination type. Your destination type determines the customer that you're going to be dealing with. Your customer determines the amenities that they're going to demand. And your amenities determines the construction